What's up, everybody? How are we doing? I hope well. It is the 3rd of February. The month of January seemed to have gone by extremely slow, It's very slow. Whether it was a mixture of like having a lot of anticipation for a new year, I kind of feel like January always goes by really slowly because you're just like getting really excited if you are one of the people that does set a lot of goals and intentions for yourself, or maybe you're doing sober January, for you to start seeing the like reward of your actions and starting to see some of your goals actually play out, and also be able to have your first drink come Feb 1. I personally was not in that sober train. I honestly have a great time in January, and I've been going out every single weekend and really enjoying myself. And there's actually this like weird, I've been noticing a lot of people not practicing sobriety necessarily, but like living sober at a younger age. And whether that's a result of people just like excessively drinking more than they ever have in their life, or like maybe it's finally our generation is starting to realize, and the older generation, like millennials, are starting to realize that just drinking isn't as great as it seems and you can't have control over it, that a lot of people are sober, which I think is a great thing. I honestly don't have a bias towards either. I think alcohol, it truly is poisonous, and it's just so funny, the irony of how I feel like I find myself in these conversations with people when they're like, oh, like I won't do that, or on the extreme form, some people like may not get treatment for certain types of diseases, or like get Botox or anything, or like won't eat certain types of processed foods, yet they drink. And I'm like, I feel like drinking is the most poisonous thing that people commonly just do, and it's a norm. So it's a bit hypocritical of all of us to think that we're like living superbly healthy lives when we drink. And that's not to say that those who don't drink are living the superb health life, but it's just funny that like people like forget that drinking alcohol is very bad for you. And even if you don't drink, I'm not going to kiss your feet, but you definitely are eliminating a very common toxin, besides probably what we're consuming every single day in the food that we eat, which that's a whole nother can of worms with everything that's been going on with RFK and stuff. I think my high level view of it is, I honestly am so game for somebody to be in a position, even though they have no credibility. It's also very concerning, but I am game for giving people chances to provide a different perspective. I don't think I would want it somebody like him being the head of the FDA and all of that, where he literally hasn't even gone to school for any of it. But if he were like on the board, or like surrounding the people in power to advise them, I think I'm open to that concept. But what can you be open to for something that's already happened? So it'll be interesting. There's a lot that has been interesting. God forbid this plane crash into the Potomac River. What? Like, what in the world is going on? And then I just can't, when I'm on TikTok and they're like taking all the photos of the figure skaters who are like snapping pics with their parents after coming back from their tournament. I just can't. I feel so horrible saying that, because this is like people's lived truth in life, like with the fires and with just like all these horrible things that are continuously happening around our world, which will never stop happening. So, but I feel bad sometimes rejecting that reality and not being able to look at it, because it's like this is somebody's reality right now, and here I am too weak to even look at this photo of them. But I'm trying to just honor my feelings, because ultimately, even if I was really sad about it, like that wouldn't change their situation. That wouldn't bring these people back to life. That wouldn't resurrect these homes from the ashes. So it's like I have to set certain boundaries for myself and try not to feel so guilty about doing that, because you have to protect your peace at all times. And sometimes it's good not to see it as like being selfish, because I don't think it's selfish, but It's a guilty conscience, On a completely materialistic note, and complete segue, there is this new app called Benable, Benable, that I have really been enjoying using. One of their founders reached out to me and said that it's basically like a LTK or something, and a bit like an easier version where you can link Amazon stuff. You can link like it's even more like easily linkable than LTK or Amazon storefront or anything. And you can have it all categorized by like your home stuff, your cookware, your snacks, your suggested like athletic wear and brands. And you can link like literally specifically down to the color of whatever underwear or whatever sports bra or whatever gluten-free granola snack. And I've been using it and I've been really enjoying it. So if any of you guys are ever wondering what some of my recommendations are for certain categories, I literally cracked the F out and like made probably 15 categories and hyperlinked like 3,000 things. So take a look there if you're ever curious to see like what things I've curated in my apartment for decorating and like candle suggestions and just like probably everything you would think of, like best winter skincare recommendations, best, I don't know, random crap. But that should be linked in my Instagram page in the link tree. It's just called Benable. But yeah, that's a plug because the user experience of it is fantastic and you can link literally everything. So it's so fun. Okay, quick pivot to some topics that I have been pondering this past week. And from various podcasts I've been listening to, kind of inspiring me in conversations with my sisters, inspiring me on a few different conversations. I guess I'll start with the first because I meant to bring this up in last conversation with the Health is Matters episode that I recorded, with the doing uncomfortable things. One note I wanted to make about that was, for me personally, I didn't even mention this, but like doing this podcast, believe it or not, is very uncomfortable. I don't know who's listening. I don't know whoever I'm going to offend ever. I don't know if I'm offending you. I don't know if I'm actually helping you, which probably is worse because I do hope that things I say do help people. But this podcast is like a really hard thing for me to do because it's really uncomfortable. But I do find myself leaning towards uncomfortable things. I mean, I'm not saying this whole thing's miserable. I'm not sitting here and I'm like, I freaking hate this. Like, I really do enjoy it. It's a happy uncomfortable. And I guess that's an added layer to like doing uncomfortable things, that there are things that are truly uncomfortable that you just don't want to be doing, but you do grow in that. And then there maybe are things that are not comfortable, like working out, but you do enjoy it. Or maybe you don't, maybe you do categorize working out in the, I don't like this, but I know it's good for me. My podcast falls in the, this is uncomfortable because it's the unknown and I don't know if I'm good at it. I'm not measuring success on this. I don't know what success looks like on here. But it's something that brings me joy and it's a creative outlet for me. So that was just like an example that I meant to bring up on that episode. But other ones that I had thought of following that, because this is how my brain works, also when in arguments, like after you leave an argument, when you're like, God damn it, I should have said this, this, and that. Or you're in the shower and you're like rinsing your hair and you're like, goodness gracious, if only I could get in this argument, I would have the best rebuttal and the best counter argument possible. And then you get in that argument ever and you don't even say anything. You just get mad and cry. This is how I work with, after I produce episodes, and then afterwards I'm like, yeah, I literally should just delete that because I missed all of the points that I wrote down, or didn't even think about. But other things being uncomfortable, meeting new people, that could be categorized as a really purely uncomfortable thing that you don't enjoy doing, but you know it's good for you, or something that is just uncomfortable, as it is for many people, because we like to stay within our tribe and within the people that know us. But you do enjoy meeting new people. Another example for me was moving to New York. That was very uncomfortable, and it was extremely even more uncomfortable the first 1 to 2 years because I did not know if this is where I should be. If I didn't have Dylan, I don't think I'd still be in New York today. I would definitely have left after 1 year. It was a super uncomfortable thing, but now looking back after being here for close to 3.5 years, it's like, wow, I don't imagine myself living in San Francisco. I don't imagine myself living in LA. who would I have been friends with if I'd stayed there? Who would I be? What career would I be doing? Like, would I definitely be way tanner and way blonder? And yet I'm sitting in New York, way paler and way more brunette, but we're happy. So I was just thinking about that. And moving in general anywhere is a very uncomfortable thing for people. Change is hard for most people. You're pretty rare if you are one of those who thrives in change. I think that's a characteristic of maybe a childhood that was unfortunately tumultuous, or I'm also categorizing, but I find those that are comfortable in change have been through hard things. That's what I've observed of the people in my life, and just like people I admire who are okay with change, because it's something that's people struggle with their whole life. I don't think even anyone really likes change that much. I think even those people who do thrive in change would probably prefer things to be pretty consistent. I would put myself in that same category. I like to be in control of my change. I don't like when things are changing in my surroundings that I don't have control over. Shocker. Wow. That was a really novel thought, Faith. Wow. Nobody ever thinks that. Come on. Another example is living with your significant other. That could be negative, positive, positive, negative change, as in something that you know is really right in your situation. It's like, it's like the next step in your relationship, but you're not looking forward to it. Don't do it. If you are head over heels and you're like, I'm so excited to get into this, but maybe it's not the best next step for us, don't do it. But like, even if you are, for someone like Dylan and I, we have been dating for quite some time. Our leases were gonna expire. I had to find a sublet actually until the end of mine. We were ready for it, but it wasn't like an easy thought in my head. Like, I'd struggled with it for a while because it's kind of society and people make it seem like it's a really big deal to live with your significant other. And I don't think it's that big of a big deal. Like, honestly, ever since I moved in with him, like, it was so easy. And that's like where I knew that it was the right decision. But it definitely was an uncomfortable decision to be made ahead of time. But I knew it was the right thing. And I knew that in my heart I wanted to. But just like naturally, it's something that can be a little scared of, maybe more particularly for women, because it's like you kind of lose a bit of your freedom. And I had already lived by myself, so I felt like I kind of checked that box, but I didn't even see that as a box, which I'm so fortunate that that situation ended up as it did, because I think I probably would have been living alone at this point, and spending way more money on rent, whereas now I'm in a way nicer neighborhood probably and paying a little less than I would. Being in a serious relationship as well. That is a uncomfortable and challenging thing, and it should be uncomfortable. I put my foot down on that. I think most of the time it should be very comfortable and the person should just be like your best friend. But a good relationship, in my opinion, should be challenging, because you should be communicating hard things to each other. And this brings me to a great conversation I had this weekend, and I'll get to that. But you should be communicating hard things with each other. You should be going through the hard things in life with each other, and you should be creating waves and ripples for one another to challenge one another to be better. And that could be that person is just a mirror for you to reflect that type of person you are. Like, I've learned so much about who I am as a person because of Dylan, and we're very different in so many ways. We have lots of common interests, which my dad would say is the most important part of being in a relationship. I do agree with that to a degree, but I think us being so different and him challenging me on that aspect of like him and his response to like arguments and his response to hard things. He has great discernment over what to get worked up over and what to not, and like he rarely ever gets worked up. But that also works adversely, where it's like when I'm having a hard time and I really want him to like not get himself worked up, but like kind of show more emotion and empathy, he has a hard time doing that. And it's his but the way he's challenged me and taught me is when I'm going through a hard time, his just level-headedness and ability to deflate situations and not make it a big thing is actually so valuable, because you remind yourself that you're only in control of your emotions, and that's the most important thing. And if you let yourself get out of control, it's just a downward spiral from there. And so Dylan's really illuminated to me that like you just need to control your emotions as best you can. And then hopefully I've helped him, although he's never said this, leave space for that emotion to happen, to let it out, and to like communicate your feelings and address to yourself even like how you're feeling and why you're feeling a certain way, but just like think about it rather than just like brushing it under the rug. But that's all that to say that it can go both ways. Like we both challenge each other, and that's just like one example. But I think serious relationships, friendships, intimate relationships, family relationships, coworker relationships, like all of them can sometimes be very uncomfortable. And I think if they are a little bit uncomfortable, it's good. It's at least worth recognizing maybe like where that discomfort's coming from, and if it's a discomfort where you can grow in, or if it's one that's just like, oh, this person's just like an a-hole and they don't understand me. But those are other examples of things that can be hard, that sometimes it's worth like thinking, can I lean into this, and like, is this making me a better person? Obviously you don't have to think about that everything in your life, because you'll drive yourself crazy. But after obviously I published that podcast, I was like, wow, I've done so many things that have made me uncomfortable but a better person. So, but one of the topics that I wasn't actually going to talk about today, but the reminder of communicating hard things with your partner, was I had invited this last weekend my boyfriend's mom and the two aunts, Dylan's two aunts, to come to the city from Connecticut where they all live, and we'd spend a day together, and they stayed at a hotel near us, and we had so much fun. It only took like 2 months for us to like actually lock down a weekend, because one of them has kids at home still that are in sports, so you know how that goes. But it was so much fun, and they kept apologizing for being old bags, which was cracking me up, because I'm like, you guys are not old at all. Like, I truly believe that like once you hit like 75, okay, that's old. I'll agree with you, and you say I'm old, I'll be like, yeah, you are. But I feel like any year younger than I truly, I'm like, you're not that old. Like, you're still in the safe zone. You still can party, you can whoop it up, and these ladies sure do. And I had asked them what the secret to being married this long is, and like what about their partner, just like what about the relationship between the two of them do you think is really important, good or bad, to bring up. And one, I won't name who, but one said to communicate hard things, communicate, period, full stop. Talk about fun things, talk about useless things, talk about hard things, talk about difficult things, talk about, I don't know, everything, but talk and communicate with one another, which I thought was great advice, and like often maybe something that many of us who are in serious relationships would overlook. But as Love Island says, having good chat and, you know, just talking with one another like you would a friend, I think is so important. One said laughter, which I have truly like always thought of for so long. I've never dated anybody that was funny, and Dylan has a great dry sense of humor that is hilarious, and we make each other laugh all the time, more so him making me laugh and then me trying to tell him that I'm really funny, and I'm just unintentionally funny. But we laugh and giggle all the time. I think joy and laughter is honestly a pillar of a happy life in general, and happiness, let alone in a long-term relationship and marriage. So 100%. And then one said, what was hers? It was about, I think, like taking care of one another, and like giving each other space. I actually may have forgotten that one, but maybe it'll come back to me later on. But I love, in not a cheesy way, because I'm trying to get better at not bringing up awkward questions, because sometimes I cringe at myself when I think back to conversations I've had with people and maybe thought like, oh my God, like you were really trying to interview them. But that's the past. We put it under, brush it under. But I find sometimes allowing myself in situations with like these older women who I admire and I love greatly, being like, I'm gonna ask them a cheesy question because I'm genuinely curious about how they think about this. And then it inspired for the whole rest of the evening. We would just like throw funny comments or jabs or spark up sub conversations around that one topic about marriage and like what it takes to have a successful marriage and the key traits and qualities that you have with each other. But maybe hers was spending quality time. Oh my God, I don't remember. Should have written it down. That's okay. We'll hear about it in next week's podcast. But similar on the topic of relationships, I think one podcast I had listened to, I think this woman is like doing a book tour or something, but her name's Jillian Turecki, and she's the author of the book It Begins With You. It must have just come out or something because she's literally on every single person's podcast. But she was just on Melissa Wood House. This isn't where I got this quote, but she was on We Met at Acme or some podcast that I listened to. And she was just speaking about the responsibility that we owe to ourselves for our own happiness and how nobody else can control how you carry yourself in life, that ultimately it's just with you. And that's similar in line with Mel Robbins' let them theory, that it really is just you at the end of the day, and you need to figure out how you're going to manage and control your emotions and what things are deserving of your time and energy. But similar to that, Jillian said on this podcast, in quotes, "No one is coming to save you. We are responsible for our own happiness. Your partner should add happiness to your life, but they are not responsible for your fulfillment as a human being. People know this intellectually, but often when you get into relationships, you have expectations about how this person should make them feel. But we should be thinking, how am I making them feel? And what is my responsibility versus the responsibility of my partner?" And again, this stretches beyond just long-term intimate relationships. This should stretch within friendships and familial relationships as well. But it's literally so true, and I've never really understood this whole concept of like the no one is coming to save you thing, because I felt it was like quite harsh. And it still, the verbiage of it still is, but the message of it is so true. And that is like, we are born into this world, unless you're a twin, alone, and unless you die at the same time as your twin or your partner, like you die alone. And it's really, and you go throughout your days, most days alone. You go to the bathroom alone, you shower alone, maybe you go to a workout close alone, you go to work alone. We do things alone, so you need to be very comfortable, not need, but I think in the efforts of life, you should become and actively challenging yourself to become comfortable with who you are, because you can't really change who you are. And once you learn to accept yourself and love yourself and understand yourself, going back to choosing a partner that's kind of a mirror to you, then you can be more comfortable in life in a good way and not in a complacent way. But in her quote, though, and in the next line, I guess I'll just go line by line, "We are responsible for our own happiness." 1000%. Oh my God. That is hard. That is a hard concept it's an easy thing to say, hard to do. We truly are responsible for our own happiness. If you are recognizing tendencies in the way that you socialize with people, in the way that you eat food and rely on certain things to bring you a certain type of feeling, recognizing what those things are in your life that you do a lot, and then understanding, if I took that away, would I be the same person? If I took away the weekly salt and straw, the daily salt and straw, if I took away that crazy binge Friday, Saturday night that like I look forward to with my friends, if I took away my partner, and this is like a brash way of thinking of it, if I took away Dylan, if I didn't have children after bringing children into this world, like would I be happy still? And again, it's a hard thing because it's made up. Like if you do already have children, if you do already have a partner, like these are things that you have to imagine otherwise. There's probably better ways that you can test your understanding if you're relying on something for happiness. But the core of it, and what she's referring to here, is in intimate relationships, knowing that at the end of the day, this person just adds to your life and adds to who you are and adds to your happiness, but happiness really comes from within. And in order to get to that within part, you need to understand yourself a little bit better. And sometimes that goes hand in hand with even choosing a partner that kind of illuminates certain things about yourself and makes you recognize a lot of things you might not like about yourself. And it's your responsibility to go change those things if you care enough, or if you don't care enough to change those things, accepting yourself how you are and loving that about yourself, or at least accepting it. You don't even have to love it, just accepting it. Because I think acceptance is the path to happiness. Accepting things you can't control, accepting things you can control, which is pretty much just how you react. So we are responsible for our own happiness is huge and something I'll take with me for the rest of my life, because even though I always knew that, it's such a good reminder, because at the end of the day, if you can carry yourself with the understanding that no amount of money, no amount of Chanel bags, I need to remind myself of that, no amount of success in my career, no amount of status in my job, no amount of friends I have, no amount of weight I lose, no amount of things I acquire and attain, no matter what car I drive, no matter what partner I have, I am happy with who I am without any of that. And I think if you can start thinking of this now when we're younger, it makes it easier to come back to a base level as we get older and as we acquire new things and new friends and material items and money. It doesn't distort your view of who you are as a person, because you've already thought about that you've liked yourself before it all. So ask yourself if you like yourself, and if the answer is no, you have, no matter what age you are, you have time to figure it out and figure out what those things are maybe you don't like about yourself, and always try to come back to some things that you do like about yourself, because the more negative self-talk you do have in your head, the more you will wire your brain to think that way. And as humans, we are predisposed to think negatively, like full stop, which is crazy. You have to be very intentional about being positive and thinking positively about yourself. So yeah, I think, and then I also asked the ladies, what is one thing that you like about yourself too, which I think is a great question. And I don't really remember all the answers right now, but I will later. And then just continuing on with her quote, Jillian's quote, your partner should add happiness to your life, but they are not responsible for your fulfillment as a human being. Same goes for a friend. Like, if you are seeking for a romantic partnership, you should be in the mindset of they add to who you are as a person. They're not there to kind of fill the glass the rest of the way up or fill in color. They do fill in color to areas of your life, but they're not there to like provide that color in which you paint everywhere. They're the few missing pieces, and maybe in the trees and the grass color that needs to be filled in is what your romantic partner is. But for the most part, like, everything else is pretty much filled in. Or maybe they're like I don't know, silly example, but I've stopped getting my nails done because it's like really expensive and it's annoying to have to go all the time. But I'd imagine a partner is like, say you have the base coat on of like the color, but then it's that last shiny top. Like, it still looks fine. Like, it still looks good. And your nails are done, which is the most important part. But your partner is like that last shiny top coat where it's like really seals it in. It's like, yeah, your nails look really good. That's how I oddly put that into a metaphor. But on that note too is what I find, and as I'm about to turn 26 come March, I feel like I'm breaching the territory, I'm not sure, the territory of where people might start becoming a little bit more insecure about either the current relationships they're in, or either not being in a serious relationship for quite some time, or, maybe people that will be in serious relationships, I already said this, might not be in comfortable situations anymore, and how that can kind of spark up a sense of desperation in people to make irrational decisions. And I thought of this the other day because in sales, it's so volatile, like quarter after quarter, you kind of never know if you're going to do well. And well, you don't never know. A lot of things are in your control, but it's pretty much, say you have a blowout amazing quarter, it resets in 3 months. Starts over. Fully starts over. That's the same with sports. You have a great blowout season, starts over. You could have a horrible season the next time. You could have a horrible quarter. You could have a fantastic, even better quarter, but it's like everything resets at the end. And I think for me, in my career and in sports too, this is something that I had struggled with for a really long time, and something I kind of came to the realization of is if you want something, it's good to want things really bad, but it's not good to be desperate for them. And it's a hard, blurry line, but if you do find yourself getting extremely emotional over an outcome that didn't happen, or maybe becoming, I don't know, too happy over an outcome that did happen, because ultimately you find a baseline of happiness, and that the happiness goes away too. If you find yourself having radical emotions over an outcome that did or did not happen, I think you could probably think I was maybe a little desperate for this. If you start sacrificing things in your life that you had always really prioritized before to get an outcome that you want, you're probably a little bit desperate for that. For me, in sports, it was so hard for me with swimming in particular to understand that you can put all of the work in. You can go to every single practice and be the number one attended of practice person. They're the hardest worker on the team, and you can still not improve your time an entire season. Like that was excruciating pain for me, and I would get so upset. And this is where I started to know that I was a little desperate to do well, because I would get so upset and so envious of my friends who could just waltz on into a meet, barely have gone to practice, and blow out their time. And I was like, WTF? Why are they deserving of this? How does this happen? Am I not in the right sport? Am I not talented enough? Yada, yada. And that's when, looking back now, I can reflect on that and be like, I was so desperate for success, and I was so desperate to be better that I let it control my emotions, and I let it get the best of me, plain and simple. Same in a sales career and in your jobs as well. If you find yourself starting to act different to your manager to try to get a promotion, if you see yourself thinking really evil, cynical thoughts about your coworkers because they're getting a certain type of attention over you, it's probably easier for you to. It's probably easy, or not easy, but it's probably a little bit because you might be really desperate for a certain outcome rather than just really wanting an outcome. Basically, if you start doing bad things and not liking who the person is, the person that you're becoming is, then you probably are desperate for a situation to happen. And it's hard because it's once you recognize that it's mostly the afterthought of after something happens or doesn't happen, you're like, wow, I'm absolutely devastated. And then you pick yourself up. It's hard in the thick of it to think to yourself, am I being desperate for this? But if you have that wherewithal to do that, I really think it's good to think about if you are just really wanting something bad, or if it is a bit of desperation and because that just never ends well. It's I'm desperate to get this promotion. I'm desperate to hit my quota. I'm desperate to perform the best I ever had in my whatever sports I do. Because when it happens, then it's okay, cool, awesome. You're just going to go back down to that baseline of mediocre that we kind of all live at. Or if it doesn't happen, then you're going to be, again, we're all predisposed to negativity. It's going to chip away at your resiliency and chip away at, you're going to have it's going to be such a downfall that it's going to be just super devastating to you. So it's why set yourself up to feel desperate? Why set yourself up for failure and feel desperate about something? And similar to serious relationships too, it's you don't want to ever, and this is hard and so easy for me to say as I'm in a serious relationship, but you don't want to be desperate to be in any type of serious relationship, because then you will end up sacrificing. and I've seen this with many of my sister's friends, and we've spoken about this, you'll end up sacrificing certain very important qualities in a person that you want to be with long term. You'll end up dismissing that because maybe this person gives you attention and that's what you want. So it's very nuanced. And it's just something to ponder amongst all the other things that I've asked you to ponder on this. But we'll just continue on with dissecting the quote like we're in an AP literature class. In the part of your partner should add happiness to your life, people know this intellectually, but often when you get into relationships, you have expectations about how this person should make you feel. But we should be thinking, how am I making them feel? And like, yeah, this is huge. I would say for me personally, 100% did this. Still do this to this day with Dylan, like him not showing me certain types of emotions when I'm feeling a type of way and me getting upset and worked up over it and being like, why aren't you like this? And trying to control him and try to put him into try to condition him to be more how I want him to be him. But again, how he's illuminated so much about me, it's you can't control. Even the person who admires and loves you and respects you the most, you can't ultimately change who they are unless they're willing to do that. So for me, I have and had a lot of expectations about the relationship I'm with him and like the things that we should be doing together, or like, you know, comparison is a thief of joy, but seeing certain couples do certain things and being like, oh, should we be doing that? I'm not saying married. I'm not getting married for a while. But that's been something that I am guilty of 100%, is having expectations of relationships and of my partner and how Dylan should be making me feel. But really I should be thinking about what are my responsibilities in catering towards him and making him feel good. For example, we both have an issue with not celebrating ourselves enough and not celebrating our wins and being just like good people or doing well in work. Like we really move on very fast. And for me, I always like it when he celebrates me, but I need to be vigilant and aware of celebrating him and his wins and like really being like, no, Dylan, like that is so awesome. And so also again, like an example of like gift giving. Like I love gifts. I love material goods. As I sit here in my hoodie and my pajamas all day, every day, like I work from home, so I literally don't have to wear clothes. Yet I love acquiring things that I just don't ever use. Nice things specifically. And I always really envy my friends who get really nice gifts from their partners. And I'm like, Dylan, what the heck? I'm like, geez, like, do you even love me? But A, that's just not the way that he expresses his love. B, I can buy myself nice things. C, he's working on it. Like he wants to buy me nice things. It's just not a first thought, which is like totally fine. I should not have these expectations of him. I would not have these expectations of him if I didn't compare myself to the couples of the other people around me who's the guy pays for most things. Dylan and I are in a very different financial situation that it's allowed to be more fair. Like it's not fair for me to expect him to do these things for me just because my sister's husband buys her nice things. It's not fair for me to think that Dylan's going to buy me nice things, something I work on every birthday and holiday. But like around the Valentine's Day, around our anniversary, sometimes it does tend to become a bit more about the women. And like you can allow for me, my surroundings and my other couple friends to like infiltrate. And I believe that it is supposed to only be about the women, but like I'm actively taking note that like during Valentine's Day, it's a celebration of both love. During anniversary, it's the celebration of both loves. Like I should also be getting Dylan a card. I should be getting him a little small gift and showing my appreciation towards him, not just subconsciously, consciously thinking that he should be doing things for me. So following this, I'm going to go to get a card for him, and I have an idea of like maybe getting him some ice cream or like something cute for Valentine's Day. And this will come out before that, so I really hope he doesn't listen to it and already know what the surprise is. Damn it. But I do, that is in part my responsibility of me towards him, is I want to make him still feel special. If I want to feel special, I should be thinking how I can make Dylan feel special. It should not just be a one-way road in that. So, yeah, I hope that you can at least take something away from these scattered learnings that I've had over this past week. Hopefully you don't think I'm a psycho. I really do carry things on my conscience, but just know I don't think deeply about all of these things. Like, I only do because I have this outlet that allows me to like communicate my thoughts out further, but I don't deep a lot of things. So I love that I think about things seriously, but at the same time, it's like I'm not twiddling my thumbs thinking of like all the deepest topics in the world. But I hope that you at least could take something away from all of this. I hope I got this video uploaded. We'll see. I got this like ancient video camera that my mom, like I swear to God, it's even older and uglier than the one my mom had like 15 years ago. I don't know how that's possible, but got it off Amazon. We're going to see if I can upload the video. And yeah, anywho, thank you guys so much for listening. If you got this far, I am being consistent with this. I'm staying true to my word. Unlock. And I will talk to you guys next week. Let me know if there's any topics or maybe people that you think are interesting to interview. I'm really open to suggestions, and check out my Benable if you are ever curious of what products I'm using. Love you guys. Bye.